Hey everybody, Josh Brown here, managing editor with Carmel Magazine, and today I'm at the home of Dan and Nancy Hintz in Carmel. Thanks for having me over, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Beautiful home. They've welcomed me in and let me hang out and meet the dogs, so we're all acclimated. Anyways, we are chatting today. They are the founders for the Million Meal Movement, correct?
Yes.
And so that's in our November issue right now, that story. If you haven't caught it yet, be sure to check that out. It's a great story. But Dan and Nancy are going to take some time to chat with us about this movement that you guys have started that's really turned into quite the ordeal. You've got a big event with the marathon coming up next week. So maybe just give people who are watching some insight into the Million Meal Movement and how you guys kind of came up with this whole organization.
Okay. Well, we saw it back in 2000 and started it back in 2007 after seeing it in another state, and saw that there really wasn't one in Indiana yet, and it has just grown a lot ever since then, mostly due to the kindness and generosity of Hoosiers wanting to help out their fellow neighbor.
That's all very politically correct and well said, but I was ambushed. I came home from work. She had been taking care of the kids, and she said, "Hey, I saw something on NBC Nightly News. They have a segment, People Who Make a Difference. There's this great charity idea, but it's only in Minnesota and Iowa, pretty much. We should bring it to Indiana." You know, some guys will come home and say, "Hey, you need to paint the garage, or you need to do." we should start a charity. I said, "Honey, it was on just on NBC. There's going to be one popping up on every corner. Maybe we can help someone else out."
Right.
But I'll tell you what, if no one else does it and it looks like something we can pull off, then we'll do it, because it should be done. And we looked into it, and no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
So just because there's a good idea on television doesn't mean someone's
Always
necessarily
doing
going
it
to
everywhere,
pick
yeah.
it up, right? So I looked into it and I said, you know what? I'll handle everything, except I'm not leasing a commercial building or buying a commercial building.
Right.
You find a building, we'll do it. So she made a few phone calls, and we can't express enough gratitude for the American Red Cross. They let us use their facility in Noblesville for 5 years. So and frankly, the only reason that stopped was they sold the building, the facility, as they're consolidating operations. But it was fantastic. I mean, we were able to start it, the two of us, a handful of other volunteers, and those volunteers made an incredible difference. One of them came up with the idea for the Million Meal Marathon that we now do every year at Lucas Oil. Nancy can talk a little more about that.
Yeah, that's the big event, right? Coming up next Tuesday at Lucas Oil. That's
Yes.
obviously, you guys do these packing events all throughout the year, but the Million Meal Marathon is really the big one. So maybe dive into us what all goes into that event, you know, where it's at the time, just kind of let people know what's coming up with it.
So that is an all-day event. We have several shifts where the volunteers come and they package food, and the neat thing about it is that you see so many people from many walks of life coming and setting aside their differences and coming together as one to help out their fellow neighbor. And that's just something that I think is beautiful, and love to see that more. But what we have is the goal is to reach 1 million meals.
Right.
And the more volunteers we have, the more companies, sponsorship we have, the more we're able to make it happen. But we see schools, we see companies come, and just families will sign up and be able to enjoy a day of packaging food for the people in Indiana who are
Right.
food insecure, and have a fun time doing it. We play lots of really fun music,
Yeah.
and it's just an enjoyable event. We also have the Colts players that come, and we have the cheerleaders that will come, and they also get involved. They also package as well. So it's really a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah, and Nancy's skating over a little bit. It's really Nancy and the staff that's the secret ingredient to all of this. You just don't open the doors and it happens.
right. A lot of legwork behind the scenes that goes on.
And creativity. You know, for years, in fact, we do it to this day, but we're primarily funded by corporate sponsors who want to do an employee engagement event, get their employees out, they can bring their families, they can package food, accomplish something, see it done with their own hands. And if the corporations give more than what their employees are going to pack, we start to incorporate local schools.
Awesome.
So we bring in a lot of IPS students who they're unlikely to raise enough money to do large type of service events.
Right.
So corporations, companies, civic groups, religious groups come in, they sponsor, and if there's enough money left over, we bring in and let the kids package too. And with most of, in fact, almost all of the food that we package staying in local food pantries, a lot of those kids are going to see it back on their plate in a matter of weeks sometimes. So it's material they can see that they're actually producing something with their own hands, and it gives them an opportunity to help someone else rather than simply always receive help.
Right.
And
There
give
was
a
one
sense of
table
pride.
that I remember, some students came and they really weren't 100% sure what to expect, and were hesitant to get involved. And after working with them and getting them to begin measuring the food and packing the meals, they were originally one of the last tables to start, but then at the end of the event, they were the last table to leave. They were enjoying it so much. So I think what we do is we raise the bar of compassion with each and every volunteer. And I think when children get involved, the more they do this and the more they see their parents and other adult mentors do it, the more it will become a part of them and be part of their life when they are an adult.
Right.
So I think what we do is we feed two kinds of hunger. We feed the hunger of those who are food insecure in the state, but we also feed the hungry who want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, and let's dive a little bit into the impact, because obviously, you're shooting for 1 million meals each year like this, like you said, but you're looking at the 11-year span of the movement. I mean, give us some insight into some of the numbers as far as volunteers and impact that you guys have been able to make over the years.
Oh, we're closing in on 30 million meals total. And
Wow.
the million meals is just what we attempt for the one event.
For that
Lucas
one
Oil.
marathon, right?
Right. So it depends on level of corporate sponsorship. We had a string of years where we were actually doing 1.2, 1.3 million meals in that single day. This year, I think we'll be coming in closer to 750, 800,000. We're just one or two corporate sponsors away from hitting the million. So
Awesome.
if there's anybody out there who would like to have some type of event for their employees or their church or synagogue, we'd love to have you. It's not too late, even though it's next Tuesday. It's
And
not
you
too
could be
late.
the reason that they reach 1 million. So.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
So, and it'll vary. We have regular monthly packs, and a lot of companies will choose to do something at their headquarters or at their locations. One of the things that attracted me about this particular model is just the honesty and transparency on it. It's 27 cents a meal, and if you have a group, for example, the first thing that we did with the professional sports team was actually Andretti Green Racing.
Okay.
So that was those were two fun ones. They would have the pit crews and the drivers race to see who could make the most meals. I mean, these people can strip down a car in 10 seconds.
Right.
It's amazing to watch them. And if you've ever seen a line, there's a funnel where you put the plastic bag under the funnel and people put the ingredients
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
I bet they were knocking that out real
Oh my
quick.
God.
Well, I'll come back to that. The first year, we're pretty sure Tony Kanaan won.
Yeah.
But Danica Patrick's pit chief was remarking some of his boxes. It was a suspicion,
Oh.
nothing on camera.
A little suspicious activity.
So the
going on.
second year, we had a couple more judges and observers around to make sure none of that would happen. But then that year we had to penalize Kanaan because we caught him unplugging Marco's sealer. So you had poor Marco Andretti pushing down and nothing was happening, and Tony was just
He was
whistling,
stuck.
and he wanted to be caught. It was
Yeah.
it was really very charming.
That's fun.
And some of those racers that year, the first year, those drivers had a term of service for community service, PR, that sort of thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of pressure put on young athletes, especially in the spotlight. And one of the drivers just did not want to be there, and you could tell that. A larger point that I'd make around these is, if you're paying for an event and you're making the food and you have a particular mission or group you want to support, You can take the food and send it there yourselves. We just need documentation that it went to someone in need.
Right.
So in this case, Kim Green's wife, Courtney, years ago had volunteered at a refugee camp in Tanzania, I believe, and they wanted the food to go there.
Yep.
So they shipped the food to Tanzania. So think about this. A lot of not-for-profits, you give them money and you hope something good comes of it.
Right.
Here, okay, 27 cents a meal. You put in this much. Here's how many meals it makes. You can make them yourselves. If you can't make them all, we'll bring in the kids who can't have a service project like this otherwise.
Right.
They can make something, and then we'll either distribute it through Midwest Food Bank, Leaner's Food Bank, the regional ones that populate all that, or you can ship it to a refugee camp. We had one a few years ago where there's maybe 8 orphanages in Nicaragua that they were getting their food from one place.
Yeah.
It shut down.
Yeah.
And these kids were left high and dry, so we shot enough food down to keep those orphanages fed for 2 or 3 months while they could find a different supplier. So we're small and we're nimble, and we can do things like that. So a lot of times if you see a hurricane or a natural disaster, that type of thing, we'll send food out there as well,
Right.
because
Right.
we have inventory and we can respond quickly.
Right.
But you have the if you sponsor, you have the opportunity to send it wherever you like.
Right.
We just need to show it. So anyways, Kim came back with pictures of these kids who, you know, they were in bad shape. I
Right.
mean, they were, you say skin and bones, it means something different in Tanzania than it does in
States.
America.
Mhm.
And they're smiling and they're so thankful. The next year that driver came back with their parents, and they were happy and they stayed the entire time.
Mhm.
And that's part of where it's not often that you see a chance to see how their hearts have changed just one period to the next.
Right.
And
See where your money goes. I mean, it's awesome. You guys are able to make a global impact in those ways. It's not just here locally.
Yeah. You know, it was just the two of us and a few volunteers, and we've always operated as volunteers. We started hiring staff a number of years ago, but it was just our efficiency. I remember one pastor came in, one of these very large churches, and said, "So, do you guys make any money off this?" We're like, "No, we actually sponsored it to get it going."
We're just volunteers.
Yeah.
I told him our overhead went up 1,200% this year, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, we had a PO box, but people couldn't figure out how to get a hold of us, so I added a phone line, and that was our overhead." Because
Right.
it's just when you look at these people in need, and I mean, you know, but for the grace of God, if our ancestors would have settled in Haiti or Africa, we would be the ones over there.
Right.
We're very lucky. Don't you know, we stand on the shoulders of greatness and of giants in this country, but those are people over there, and they're in need.
Yeah.
So it gives everyone an opportunity. But kind of wrapping up on that racing event. So the second year, one of the teams built their own funnel, a second funnel, so they would have 2
Mhm.
funnels. That just freaked the other 3 teams out. So what they came up with was that you don't actually need a funnel. They would practice holding the bags open and move closer to each of the ingredients to reduce
So
the
they had
amount of
the
space.
system down.
Oh, yeah.
27,000 meals in an hour.
Wow.
It was just crazy.
Right.
And,
The average is 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Oh yeah. They move fast.
That's awesome. Well, and then, you know, the marathon event at Lucas Oil, we were talking, I mean, the Colts have kind of jumped in with this almost at the very beginning with you guys as well to kind of help and host it
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny how one thing leads to another. Peyton Manning, this was back when we had one full-time employee, and she did all the paperwork right, everything else, and he sponsored a packing event down at, I believe, the Shepherd Community Center. I think it's off East Washington. And I went to that one because we had this notion, and we were trying to put together the first marathon. And a good friend of his actually works with me, or I should say he's a colleague of mine, and I knew that these guys would be hanging out over Labor Day. So we got it in, just mentioned, be sure he knows what an impact this made. Got back to him, and next thing you know, the phone rings, and he's willing to be a sponsor, and sometimes it's just a matter of whose golfing party you know. But,
Right.
So that was Peyton's last year in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So then the Colts took it over. And the Colts have been wonderful partners. And we'd be remiss not to mention the Pacers as well. The Pacers do a couple of large events a year.
They do. They'll be having one next month, actually.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, they're great. And you know what's kind of commonly known in the community, at least as much as it should be, is Jim Morris, who is in some capacity there periodically. He'll be president or wherever they need him. Was head of the World Food Program for the United Nations, Under Secretary General, and a great resource and frankly inspiration for. If you've heard Jim speak, you know the need that's out there, and just thankful that we can be on the other side and help others in some capacity.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's incredible. I mean, it's an awesome event. I knew before coming here, obviously we had done the story, and so I kind of had some history into it, but I think it's awesome to be able to talk with people and let them know kind of what's coming up and what's going on with this, because it's a really cool movement that you guys have started. Well, I guess to wrap things up, let's let people know where they can go online to volunteer and get plugged in, or maybe if that sponsor is watching that says, hey, you know, I want to get plugged in, I want to help you get to 1 million next Tuesday. Let's let people know where to go to where they can get plugged in.
Oh, absolutely. So it's not too late to get signed up. You simply go to our website at millionmealmovement.org and feel free to sign up there and or give us a call at the phone number is on the web as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for coming out, and
thank you guys for having us.
Yeah,
yes,
nice.
yes, you have to come out.
Yeah.
So over 3,000 volunteers one day, working in shifts, and there's great music. You got to check it out.
And so they'll be
You ought to
dancing
check it
and
out.
hanging out. The music will be cranked up, so it'll be a good time at Lucas Oil next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Nancy and Dan,
This was
for taking
wonderful.
some time to chat with us. We appreciate it. Again, if you haven't read this story, it's online at townpost.com under our Carmel tab. We posted it on Facebook and Twitter as well, Carmel Magazine, so be sure to check it out there. We'll see everybody again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.